You know the story, right? The Silicon Valley founder, this rebel genius in a hoodie who drops out of college to change the world. We've all heard that myth. But what if I told you that behind that myth, there's a very specific and honestly, a deeply weird philosophy? So what is this secret playbook that turns these outsiders into the rulers of our new economy? Well, it all starts with a super simple and incredibly provocative idea.
Yeah, that's it. Competition is for losers. Just let that sink in for a second. This little gem is from investor Peter Thiel's lecture notes, and it just cuts right to the heart of this whole worldview. You see, while most of us are taught that competition is the healthy engine of capitalism, this philosophy sees it as a destructive trap. It's a sign that you've already lost the real game. And this idea just reframes everything. From this point of view, competition is just a zero-sum battle over a pie that's already baked. It's about copying what already works, what they call going from 1 to N. Monopoly, on the other hand, isn't about some evil tycoon crushing rivals. No, it's about creating something so new that you literally have no competitors. You've made a whole new market. You are the only player. That's the leap from 0 to 1. And that, they argue, is where real, honest-to-goodness progress actually happens.
Okay, so if monopoly is the goal, how in the world do you actually build one? I mean, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a surprisingly practical playbook, a step-by-step guide given to aspiring founders. So here's the recipe, the secret sauce. You don't just go out and take on a giant like Google on day one. No way. You start small. You find a tiny, overlooked market that you can completely, utterly own. Think about how Facebook started. It wasn't for the whole world. It was just for Harvard students. Once you totally dominate that little niche, then you methodically expand into the markets right next door. It's like a strategy of conquering these little defensible islands before you try to build a whole empire. And this whole strategy is built on a really important concept called the power law. It's basically the 80-20 rule on steroids. The idea is that in pretty much any system, a tiny, tiny number of things account for the vast majority of the results. So in venture capital, for example, it means that just one single investment in a huge portfolio will probably make more money than all the others combined.
And that exact same principle applies to building a business. So what does this mean for a founder? Forget about diversifying. The goal is to find the one thing, the one product, the one distribution channel, that one revenue stream that works exponentially better than anything else, and then you pour every last drop of your energy into it.
So the whole playbook really boils down to this one crucial point. Real value, true progress, is created by inventing brand new things, not by just copying old ones. That is the essence of moving from 0 to 1. In this view, something like globalization is just spreading existing ideas around. That's a 1 to N activity. But technology? Technology is the real engine of progress. That's the 0 to 1. But here's the thing. A radical playbook like this requires a radical kind of person to actually pull it off. This isn't just about business strategy. It's about a very, very particular kind of psychology. I mean, just take a look at the founding team of PayPal. These were not your average clean-cut business school grads, not even close. They were outsiders, immigrants, self-described nerds with some really extreme, kind of quirky traits. 4 of them built bombs in high school, and get this, the founder, Max Levchin, claimed to have 3 kidneys and to be a citizen of no country. Now, these aren't just funny stories. They point to this core belief that the people who create these 0 to 1 companies are just fundamentally different from everybody else. But how you see these traits really depends on where you're standing. The founders see themselves as these unique contrarian thinkers. But critics, well, they see something else entirely. They might see a kind of neat masculinity. That's a person who kind of ironically makes fun of things they can't have. Or they see the ambition of an autogenetic sovereign, basically a self-creating king who wants to be totally unbound by society's rules. And this journey from outsider to insider is seen as this really dangerous path. The founder starts off as an outcast, right? Then they become this revered, almost godlike creator, but then it all comes crashing down. They often end up as a scapegoat, the one single person to blame when the magic wears off or things go sideways. It's this almost mythological story of a rise and a fall. And this is where things get really interesting, because this worldview, it doesn't stop at the office door. This whole philosophy for building companies connects to a much, much larger vision for politics, for culture, and for society itself. At the very heart of this political vision is an old idea, famously summed up by Andrew Breitbart. Politics is downstream from culture. What does that mean? It's the belief that if you really want to change a country's laws, you don't start in Washington. You start by changing its values, its stories, and maybe most importantly, its technology. And right at the heart of that cultural vision is this idea called computationalism. Basically, it's seeing the world itself as if it were a computer, a system that you can decode, you can optimize, and you can control. It's this desire to find the source code of society and just rewrite it, getting rid of all the messy, ambiguous, human parts of life. Now look, these ideas didn't just pop out of nowhere. Academics who've studied this stuff trace a pretty clear line from the anti-establishment vibes of the 1960s counterculture to the early internet's cyber-libertarianism, and then all the way up to more recent movements like the intellectual dark web. And that's where you see the real political endgame here. Cyber-libertarianism is all about creating spaces powered by technology that operate completely outside the control of traditional democratic states. The big vision is for technology to become a new and, in their view, a superior form of government. So what's the one deep philosophical fear that's driving all of this? The quest for monopoly, the celebration of being weird, the desire for a world run on code? What's the common thread? It all comes down to a deep-seated fear of one thing: imitation. This idea comes from a philosopher named René Girard and his theory of mimetic desire. It's this wild idea that, as humans, we don't really know what we want on our own. We are copycats. We learn what to want by watching other people. And what happens when everyone starts wanting the exact same things, the same job, the same status, the same market? Well, it leads directly to rivalry and conflict. So this sets up two totally different theories of conflict. You've got the Marxist view, which says conflict happens because different groups of people are, well, fundamentally different. But then you have the Shakespearean view. Think of Romeo and Juliet. It says the most bitter, intense conflicts happen when the rivals are almost identical. They fight because they're so similar. And this whole founder philosophy, it sides firmly with Shakespeare.
And this is what happens when you get trapped in that mimetic conflict. People get so obsessed with their rivals that they end up fighting furiously over these tiny, insignificant differences, and they completely lose sight of what actually matters. This right here, this is the world of competition that they are so desperate to escape.
And suddenly, the whole picture just clicks into place, doesn't it? The drive to build a monopoly, that's a strategy to escape having rivals. The celebration of being a weird outsider, that's a strategy to just be different. The obsession with 0 to 1 creation, that's the ultimate rejection of copying anyone. The whole shebang is one grand strategy to escape the trap of imitation.
But, and this is the really fun part, this whole thing leaves us with a fascinating, almost delicious paradox. In a world where every single aspiring entrepreneur is now reading this exact playbook, dressing in the same contrarian uniform, and trying to build their own 0 to 1 monopoly, what happens when the ultimate philosophy of escaping imitation becomes the most imitated idea of all?